Welcome back to Usapang Bayan. Kasama pa rin po natin si Mr. Raffy Alunan, ang former DILG Secretary at current Senior Consultant to the Special Envoy to China. Sir, we were talking about yung protection po na ating fishermen dun sa disputed territory sa West Philippine Sea. Ano pa po ba yung alternative plans natin to address the livelihood status of our fisher folk now na nahaharas po sila?
Well, actually, that's for government to really express, no? But one of the plans that we have in mind as part of the confidence building measures is to have joint venture arrangements with China for aquaculture projects or mariculture, no? Because if fish catches in the open sea are dwindling, then the alternative is to grow them grow them on land, no? There are many ways of skinning the cat, no? But as I said, we will have to flesh this out in future dialogues. And once it's established, that confidence building measure is established, the next step is to implement. And if the implementation of the confidence building measures lead to a restoration of trust and confidence, then we can easily slide to bilateral negotiations.
Mr. Secretary, alam ko hong ang current administration natin is really bent on solving the drugs problem that we have. And as we all know, apparently China is a major source of yung mga drugs natin, ano, yung mga various addictive chemicals, no. Yan ho ba napapag-usapan nyo sa inyong discussions with the Chinese government counterparts?
Well, in Hong Kong, one of the confidence building measures we talked about was cooperation in law enforcement. And we mentioned anti-piracy, anti-smuggling, anti-drugs, anti-terror. Because, transnational criminals and terrorists use the South China Sea to crisscross, no? Aside from using the air. And so there's really a need for the South China Sea basin countries to cooperate in law enforcement. Now, as we all know, and no less than President Digong Duterte said so in answer to one of the questions, how come we don't get the big fish? No? Well, the real big fish, the kingpins, are the heads of the triads. And the heads of the triads are known to be in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, but mainly in the mainland. No? In fact, there is intelligence reports that members of the triad are also members of the People's Liberation Army. Okay, so which is why President Digong, when he answered that question, said, "Well, if you want me to catch the big fish, I'll have to invade the country, right?" Now, that's the reason why 2 or 3 weeks ago, China sent a law enforcement team to meet with their counterparts here in the Philippines and see how they can work together in intelligence exchange and in the future, actual law enforcement operations. No? But that will, I think, require that both countries sign for example, a mutual legal assistance treaty and an extradition treaty, very much like what we have with the United States, so that if we need assistance from the other side, we can invoke the mutual legal assistance treaty. And if we're able to charge criminals here and they happen to be there, we can request for their extradition and vice versa.
In terms of talking about international treaties and so on, we currently have the arbitration ruling, the international arbitration ruling, in our favor.
Yeah.
Has that come into play in any of your discussions with the Chinese counterparts?
No, we respect their wishes. They're quite allergic to the term ruling, but we found out that when we talk about the substance of the ruling, they don't object. No, it's just I guess they're quite sensitive about the potential embarrassment publicly if we use the term ruling, because they lost big time. And they want to save face, no? So we avoid it, but we can't help but invoke the substance of the ruling, when we exchange our views, because at the end of the day, the world still has to be governed by rules, by international law, and we all have to subscribe to it. Otherwise, it's going to be anarchic, and we'll have war rather than peace. In the track 2 dialogue, we did mention that arbitration was an option to resolve a dispute, a lingering dispute, peacefully. It's common all over the world. Commercially, that's how we solve our disputes peacefully. And there have been many cases that preceding ours that called for arbitration to settle maritime disputes in other parts of the world. So it's not uncommon.
But sir, some critics say na naduduwag daw po ang ating government because we must assert our rights dahil nag-rule na po in favor of the Philippines ang arbitrational court.
Okay, well, if they can give us an aircraft carrier, a destroyer, maybe several missiles, then maybe we can do that. But for as long as we still have bangkas and fiberglass
Mahihirapan.
boats, against 300-footers that are ready to slice you in half, I think prudence is the better part of valor.
Since you mentioned that already, sir, do you think we are prepared to address the threats of the Asian giant if hypothetically speaking, things get worse?
Well, that's another issue that is very close to my heart, and that is investing in credible deterrence. Because regardless of whether it's China out there or not, any self-respecting nation should always invest in credible deterrence to protect its territory, its people, and its resources. We haven't done that in a very systematic, orderly manner over a sustained period of time, unlike other self-respecting countries. So this is an opportunity now for this administration to grab the bull by the horns. We must invest in credible deterrence because we are wide open for a gang rape. When I was in Europe a few years ago, they asked me a question that I found very embarrassing, which I could not answer. Embarrassing because it really made us look very small. They said, we look at the Philippines as like a rich bank, isang bangkong mayaman. But unlike other rich banks all over the world, you're the only bank that has no security fence. Anybody can enter at will and take out anything that you have. And this was the question that really got me embarrassed. Why are you like that? Bakit ganyan kayo? Anong masasabi ko doon? Kasi tanga kami? Or kasi duwag kami? Or di namin alam ang ginagawa namin? It was very hard to answer that question, but it only pointed out one thing. We have to grow up. We have to grow up because the world out there is a tough world. And they're not going to give you chances. It's a harsh realities are out there.
They look after their own interest, and if you don't look after your own interest, nobody
Sorry ka na
else
lang.
will.
And sorry ka na lang. Right? That's the reason why we've been conquered time and again.
Yeah.
And we haven't learned. So I hope that, because I see Digong, President Digong, as somebody who sees things very, very clearly, and I think he's going to do something about it, right? It's just that he has so many inherited problems on his
May
plate.
priorities lang.
He has to prioritize.
Yes.
But I'm sure he's going to get into credible deterrence.
Very good. Yung tatanong ko lang talking about credible deterrence, and I heard, I saw in the newspapers that the president making statements that he wanted the U.S. military out of Mindanao. What did he mean by that? I couldn't quite clearly understand what he meant by that.
He explained that. No, it had to do with the U.S. Special Forces in Mindanao. Because sabi niya, they've been there for so long, ganun pa rin ang mga problema sa Mindanao. So sabi niya, actually they were placed there to deal with the war on terror. Pero nandiyan pa yung mga terorista, no? So, nagtataka siya. Bakit ganon? He found out, I found out that based on his consultations with the people of Mindanao, they said, eh, paano naman yan? Ang common denominator dito, year in, year out, yung kano. Baka may ginagawa sila dyan to keep us divided. And,
To keep the flame burning.
for whatever parochial reason they have, no? So sabi nila, why don't you change the equation? Tabi muna sila. And then let's see whether we can resolve the problem faster, no? Among ourselves, no? But it does not mean na kung tatanggalin sila muna doon sa Mindanao, doesn't mean na wala na yung treaty natin, they're no longer our treaty allies, security partner, etc. It doesn't mean that.
At this point in time, we need to pause for a station break. Sa amin pong pagbabalik, pag-uusapan pa rin natin ang West Philippine Sea kasama si former DILG Chief at Senior Consultant to the Special Envoy to China, Mr. Raffy Alunan. Please stay tuned.
Oh,